Right, good morning everybody. Tax seems to be the forefront of everybody's thoughts this morning. Well, it has been since all this Paradise palaver came out. I mean, it really annoys me, to be honest. I mean, I'm an accountant and I get a client, they say, I want to pay as little tax as possible. Who doesn't want to pay as little tax as possible? And yet when you do try to pay as little tax as possible, what happens? The press go on your back. You know, it's tax avoidance, that's legal. It's tax evasion, that's illegal. And if they don't write the rules to control it, then it's their fault. You can't blame the person for taking advantage of it, can you? You know, that's the thing that gets me. You got Corbyn saying the Queen should apologise. For what? For following the rules?
No, just for being the Queen.
Yeah, quite. You know, it's okay saying the Queen. Well, what about Bono and Apple and all the others? He hasn't asked them to apologise. So, yeah, I have a bit of a problem with this because tax avoidance is, to me, what I'm all about. I'm out to make sure my clients pay as little tax as possible, and that means tax avoidance. So today we're going to talk about Make Tax Digital, the update.
Oh, George.
Yeah, HMRC's vision to digitalise the UK tax system. Well, it's underway and it's starting with businesses. They've changed the rules. I mean, last time we spoke it was going to be from April 2018. It's now changed. It's now all VAT registered businesses will have to register from April 2019. So VAT reporting by all VAT registered businesses will be done. So that includes any business, unincorporated, partnerships, limited companies, etc. We don't know yet, but we're expecting comes April, well, come the 23rd of November when he does his budget, it will be that from April 2020, all the other taxes will come on stream for corporation tax and other taxes and anybody else who's below the VAT threshold. So if you're VAT registered, whether you're voluntary registered or you're over the threshold registered, from April 2019, you'll have to do your digital reporting. And that means maintaining digital records. It means you can no longer do it in a bookkeeping form on a book. You can no longer do it in a spreadsheet. Well, you can, but you have to use their software to download it. So it means basically they're trying to convert everybody to use third-party commercial software.
Is the one set of us?
Yeah. So it'll apply for everybody who's VAT registered. With a turn, well, I mean, and the question comes then, realistically, it's, as I say, it's unincorporated business companies, limited, and even charities. Anybody registered for VAT below the VAT threshold can opt in and file their registration, their VAT by MTD if they choose. So if you're actually over the limit, you have to register. If you're under the limit but choose to register, you have a choice. Again, a complication. It should be for your VAT or not, is irrelevant. So we don't know when people will fall in with the MTD for VAT because the way they've worded it, it will fall in when you do your VAT return. So it starts from April 2019. So whenever you do your first VAT return after April 2019 will be when you have to do your MTD, Make Tax Digital. It's MTD FB, Make Tax Digital for Business. I mean, there are exemptions, obviously, because there are exemptions for VAT now, because if you're out in a rural area where you can't get broadband very well, then you are exempt and can do in paper versions, and that still applies. That apply to you, David?
And you never asked. And you can only do it in the day because candles aren't lighted.
Yeah, you can't do it with a candlelight. The tax man is saying there will be some free software. However, all of the manufacturers, all of the software suppliers are saying, well, I don't know who's deploying it because it ain't us. So I don't know who's going to where this free software is going to come from. But apparently they are talking to software providers to give them free software. You know,
In turn for sort of a bit of tax break.
well, it's got to be for something, hasn't it? You know, if you're a commercial organisation selling software, you're not going to do a freebie unless you're going to get some compensation for it. So it's either the taxman's going to pay for it, you know, or we're going to pay for it, or there's going to be some other benefit to it.
It doesn't work. If you want it to work, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, precisely. That's how the revenue customs work. So But the software you have to use, right, it must be able to keep records in a digital form. So you need to keep a full list. It has to preserve the digital records in a digital form. It has to create a VAT return from the digital records, and it needs to provide HMRC with VAT data. And it must be able to receive information from MRC via the API. So it enables HMRC to send nudges to the business. The idea being is because once you've linked into them, then when it's your VAT return, they'll send you a little reminder, like they do now if you're on email. Send a little reminder saying your VAT return is due. So they can keep, and then if you don't do it, they can give you higher penalties because you ignored the nudge. So yeah, one of those things. Spreadsheets. Now they have said spreadsheets are allowable, but you cannot submit it with a spreadsheet. Because apparently spreadsheets are more maneuverable, they are more manageable by you. So you can tweak the figures with a spreadsheet. I don't know why you can't do it anything else, but yeah. So if you use a spreadsheet, you still have to use third-party commercial software to actually upload it to HMRC's website. So it sort of defeats the object of using a spreadsheet in the end. When it says keep digital records, the taxman has said that the requirement to keep digital records does not mean that businesses will have to make and store invoices and receipts digitally. You can keep the documents in paper form, but you need to keep the record in a digital form. So when I talk about digital, I mean keeping the record. So it's just date, invoice number, supplier, amount, VAT, etc. So they've all got that on record. And the reason for that is because sooner or later, not only will they have it, they'll expect you to send all that information to them. And any information supplied to the taxman must include your business name, the place of business, and the VAT registration number, and information about supplies made and received. So basically, it's just the VAT return as it is at the moment, but it's all been done digitally. Records must be kept for 6 years, as per normal. So you've got to keep. So you have to make sure that you're digital, and this is the issue with things like Sage and QuickBooks, etc. Is you have to make sure it's up to date, because if the revenue comes back in 6 years and you find you've got an older date version that doesn't now upload onto your current version, you're in trouble.
So
and with Sage,
pushing the boat out then.
yeah, and that's and because the problem with Sage is Sage upgrades their package on an annual basis, and I have to keep on my records. I've got 3 versions of Sage because I've got clients with different versions, but there's 3 versions of Sage I've got because the newer versions don't always read the older version. So therefore, you know, if you've got an older version and you've got to keep 6 years records, you have to update the newer version to make sure that revenue can read it. So it's another, you know, like commercial software. It hasn't got to be cloud-based, no. As long as you can interact with the cloud, it's fine. And Sage will have a button on its machine. And one of the buttons at the top will be MTD, and you push the button, and it'll just generate all the figures to send to. Yeah, I mean, there are a number of cloud packages out there, Xero, Free Agent, ClearBooks, etc. you can use. But Sage and QuickBooks, they've got online versions, but you still don't need to use them as long as you can interface, and there will be an interface built in, so Sage say. So, where am I? You can, according to Revenue and Customs, you can do more than monthly if you choose, but you don't. You can still use the flat rate scheme. Anybody still on the flat rate scheme? You still?
Not me, then.
Yeah, because I mean the flat rate scheme, when they went to 16.5%, actually destroyed a lot of businesses using the flat rate scheme, so a lot of people no longer do it. So, but the flat rate scheme was quite beneficial at one time. And using the annual accounting scheme will also be able to send in one annual VAT return rather than quarterly reports. So there are changes. My question really is you know, how do you do amendments? You know, because these days, you know, you can do an amendment via the next tax return, depending on the level of the discrepancy. But, you know, if they're going to get the information coming through from them, they're going to, sorry, time up. Put me on a 10-minute timer, did you, Steve?
Trapdoors work.
So yeah, so income tax itself, so that's VAT will be out up to 2019 onwards. VAT, anything else is supposed to be, income tax, etc., is supposed to be coming in from April 2020 at the earliest. But we're still waiting to see, so 23rd of November, hopefully, we'll find out.
When do you think they'll say, right, everything's now digital, we can't read it still, so please send us in your digital and your paper accounts?
No, I'll never say digital, never say paper accounts. I mean, I do everything, all my online filing is all done online, as I said, but, you know, now and again, the HMRC website goes down. I mean, I've had it, at least 4 occasions the website's gone down and you can't file whatever it is, whether it's a payroll or whether it's a tax return or whatever. You know, and you can't file it, and you're thinking, you know, if they can't do it now on the current situation, what are they going to do when everybody has to file online? It's going to be chaos. So, if you've got an unincorporated business, what you need to think about is putting in place now something on a software basis so that you can keep up to date.
Retirement, that's what you're
Well, my thinking, if it's coming in 2020, well, you know, the sooner you start, the sooner you'll be in position so that when it does happen, you're all up and running. What you don't want to do is if it comes in April 2020, is suddenly have to put something in place and then find out every quarter or every month you're doing corrections because, you know, oh, I put that wrong, I did that wrong. You want a good 12-month lead in to make sure that you're running it properly to start from day one. So, you know, I would suggest that if you've got a business and you're not using Sage or QuickBooks or VT or anything of the sort, if you're using Excel spreadsheet or paper-based, I would start looking now at an option. Some of them are fairly cheap. You know, I think Free Agent comes in at free if you don't do so many transactions. ClearBooks is not too bad. Xero comes in, I think it's £5 a month. But they all have cost, but it depends on whether you want cloud-based or not cloud-based. Because, again, one of the issues I have with it is it's assuming everybody has access to the internet. You know, you can't do an API, you can't send information to the tax office if you haven't got internet access. And some people don't. So that makes a bit of a problem. So you need to make sure you're starting to get them prepared. I mean, we don't know yet what the exemption is. When it first came out, the exemption was any turnover below 10,000, you didn't need to do it. But as I said back then, you know, if you've got a turnover less than 10,000, it's not really a business, is it? It's a hobby. You know, if your turnover is 10,000, you ain't really doing a big business deal. So although the start date is not confirmed, we're starting.
10 different businesses that were
All below 10.
all below 10.
Yeah, well, at the moment we don't know the details, but at the moment under the current news you don't have to do any of them because they're all below 10,000. It'll be part of the self-assessment once it comes in 2020. Because unincorporated businesses are sole traders, and therefore when you start MTD comes in, what you'll have to do is you'll have to do quarterly reporting, and then you'll have to do an annual catch-up, and then you have to do your tax return. So there'll be 6 reports in effect instead of 1. Yeah. Yeah.
Your accounts could do that.
But you have to pay extra for it because they're not going to do it for free. You know, that's one of the issues. I mean, under the original timetable, it's supposed to start from 5th of April 18, but they've now changed those rules simply because, you know, there was so much furore about it and so many objections about the fact that it wouldn't actually work in that time. And you know, they couldn't get free software anyway. It is a massive undertaking. You know, at the time they said they weren't willing to compromise. It had to be done this. But after the election, because of the election, they couldn't push everything through, so everything went on the back burner because they couldn't get the law passed because of the timetable. And then after that, it was a case of, okay, now we'll put it back anyway, because I think when they realised it, they didn't think they could cope. So they put it back on the back burner. So VAT first from April 2019. And we're still hoping for this free software. We don't know when it's going to come in. We don't know where it's going to come from. Well, if it's anything like HMRC's last free, it's going to be complicated. You know, they never do anything simple. If everybody tries to do a tax return online, yeah, you know, it takes you how long? A good
You've got
half
to
an
get
hour.
into their mindset.
You have. You know, it's interpreting what they say.
Anybody
You know,
who talks about tax is the same.
it's so it's just a case of, you know, you have to learn the terminology. If you don't know the terminology, you don't know what the answer to the question is. So it's really difficult. Under the current system, you know, you do a VAT return. So you do your outward VAT, your input VAT, and your total sales, net sales and net purchases, and that's it. There's 4 lines to fill in. The idea is, originally, when it starts off in April 2019, that will still be the same information they require. However, it will grow. And then once they have it all up and running, then they will expect you to send all the information. And all the information means all your transactions, which means then they can certify your transactions against other companies' transactions. So if you're buying from Roger, if you're buying from Inspirational Labels, they can be able to look at the Inspirational Labels to see if Inspirations are put it as a sale. And they can net the two. Yeah, but Tesco's do it already anyway. Yeah, but they use. I mean, all they're going to do is they're going to use algorithms. They're going to put an algorithm in, so the stuff gets downloaded. It'll just do these checks automatically, and that's it. You know, if you've got loads of transactions, how long is it going to take if you've got slow broadband? You know, it can take you a while to do it. I mean, everybody knows. Back in the old days. Now, we'll want eventually to see all the figures that make over that turnover. Yeah, which is why they want digital records, which means that they can actually analyse it, as opposed to paper records, which they have to pay somebody to actually analyse through. So it's going to be doing it. So it's going to be, you know, another complication to do. If it says, yeah, and if you've got multiple businesses over 10,000, you have to do a return for every one of the businesses. So, you know, so if you've got 4 or 5 businesses and one doing under 10,000, one's doing over 10,000 and whatever, you have to choose, you have to look at them all, and if it's over, well, at the moment it's over the 10,000 limit, then you have to do it. Then you do an end of year activity return, as I've said, which brings everything together. So, okay, this is my annual return. And then, because you're unincorporated, then you have to do a self-assessment tax return. So, you know, the whole idea when it came out was because originally they had this, you know, record checking. They went round and they used to do record checking to make sure the small businesses kept the right records. Then they found out that didn't work too well, because all they did was ring you up and they say, do you do this, and you say, yes, 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 yes. I say, oh, okay, fine. The idea of MTD is, again, to check that businesses are keeping the proper records. But my argument is, if you're under-declaring your income on a tax return anyway, you're not going to put it through your books. It's going to be cash-based, you're still going to be cash-based.
Didn't hear that, did we?
You know, so if you're going to do that, you're not going to put it onto your digital records anyway, so therefore, how the heck are they going to know? So it won't make any difference. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll all be onto bitcoins, and then we'll have no clue as to what's doing what then. We'll all be trading in bitcoins, and they'll completely lost it. So yeah, so it's going to be an interesting time. If you've got property as well, it'll apply to you if you've got VAT on property. And eventually in 2020, yeah, there will again be, you will have to do an MTD return. So even those individuals who have no income apart from a salary and rental will have to do an MTD report for the rental income. So it's all happening. So I'll be prepared now for Make Tax Digital, which will be coming in. I mean, you know, we keep delaying it and we keep fighting it, but it will come in, no two ways about it. And then when it comes in, everybody will be doing things digitally. And therefore the taxman will be onto your backs a lot more.
And when were you looking to retire?
I'm just going to say that too. Does this mean the demise of your friendly accountant?
What do you mean friendly?
Well, yeah.
What do you mean friendly? It will make it harder because, I mean, realistically, every business will have 2 choices. Well, I have 3 choices. They either do the returns themselves and they put the data input in themselves, which is time consuming. A lot of people do it already, you know, but having to learn a software package to do it is a different animal to actually doing it on a spreadsheet or doing it paper-wise. 2, you can employ a bookkeeper to do it, or 3, you can get your accountant to do it.
Or
But
4,
realistically,
or you can just quit.
or 4, you can pack the business up altogether. Yeah, and look for another source of income. Well, but the problem you've got is, you know, smaller businesses. I just think is, if you've got a small business and you're turning over, you know, 20 to 25,000 a year, you know, using a commercial spread. I mean, what's Sage going to cost? 600 quid. You know, QuickBooks costs about the same, 500 quid. You know, you line up pack, or if you go onto line and zero, like £5 a month or £10 a month, whatever it is, depending upon, you know, you're still paying out for this exercise. You know, the government said when it came in, it would save small businesses 400 million a year. Well, yeah, I think it's going to cost them because they're going to have to pay for something somewhere along the line. And you can guarantee, if it's a government's HMRC's free software, is never going to be up to the standards they're looking for. They have got free payroll software. Yeah, it works, but it's like anything else. It used to be free corporation tax. Now they're taking the corporation tax down, and they're going to take slowly, as it comes in, they're going to take everything down. So you have to do everything through third-party software because they don't want to spend money developing something, you know, on a package that's going to be out there. The RTI system works from their point of view. That's only so they can get the information in to get the tax in quicker. At the moment, MTD, it's not a case of getting tax in quicker because there's nothing about paying your tax earlier than you should do. But it probably is just a forerunner. You do your tax returns quarterly, you do your payments quarterly, like you do the VAT eventually.
Is it because we're an easy target, a small business
Yeah.
person?
Well, you can't put it in offshore funds, can you?
No.
And hide it, you know.
It's a global Jersey roll.
So that's right. You know,
They're really big.
they haven't got the resources to tackle the big companies. You know, so
That's the key to it.
they go after the small one because the small ones have got no real protection. You know, apart from the FSB.
Eventually, will every invoice have everybody's name on it? If I go and buy some petrol now, I get my receipt, but they've got no record of who they sold it
That'd
to.
be electric cars anyway.
Yeah.
If they're going to marry everything up, how do they know who the Shell guys sold their 30 million gallon of fuel?
They don't yet. But this is just the start.
Well, they'll be able to know your
Eventually they go through.
But if your manager sees that you sold 100%,
Well, no. What they'll do in the end is, am I running over? What they'll do is they'll say, you know, put your petrol station in that you bought it from, not just fuel. You have to put the petrol station in.
it's the same if you go to the chip shop, isn't it? How's the chip?
Yeah, exactly.
It's, or me selling photographs to people.
Yeah.
They've also changed their protection laws next year about what you can and can't hold, so don't have
Can't hold
money
anything.
there.
Yeah, they do.
So they're going to not only give you an invoice, but ask you permission to keep the data as well.
Now, if they give you an invoice, that's giving you the permission to keep the invoice. It's the personal stuff. Businesses don't count as personal. It's only personal information you have to keep. So personal is not business, it's totally separate. Yeah, it is. So make tax digital.
Will they have the personnel to run this system?
They won't need to because it's all computerised. They use a computer to run the system. The computer, you'll just download it, then they'll have an algorithm which will play through all your records to make sure everything's the same. So they won't need to have any people.
Do you work like the last big systems, like the passport system, the DVS,
Yeah,
the
that went
big
well.
system, and the NHS, all the other big systems they brought in?
They renewed my passport in 3 days, so I think they want to get rid of me. So that system works.
They cancelled it 6 days later. Actually.
Yeah, but, you know, it's like anything else, isn't it? You know, banks have their outages when you can't access it. You know, HMRC have everything has an outage. You have a problem. So as this comes on, it gets more complicated, and you put more information in. Then you know, it's down to them to make sure it works. Well, the whole idea is to make sure that, you know, everybody keeping accurate records and it's in sync with other people's records, so everything matches up. And that's what they want to do in the end. They want
Which
to
should be good for
analyse
all of us,
everything.
because the people that are avoiding the tax by doing it on their back pocket aren't
paying per hour.
Yeah, but how are you going to find them out? You know, if you go, if an electrician comes round and puts you in a socket and charges you 50 quid and you pay him cash, he ain't going to declare it necessarily. And if he doesn't declare it, how are they going to find out? Because you're the public, you don't raise invoices, you don't give receipts. So, you know, if you're business to customer, to that, it's going to be harder to keep a track of it. B2B is easy, B2C is harder.
I guess there are people who just doing it wrong and don't realise. There's lots of people who don't
Well, there are, but you know, realistically, if you're doing it wrong and using an accountant, they should tell you how to do it.
I think
Anyway.
you can start a new voice message company and it'll just say your call is really important to us. Please hold on for 3 days.
Now see what you've done? Bloody soapbox and move.
That's yeah, well, you know, there's got to be a David Smith somewhere, so
Yeah.
he's a new David Smith. That's it.
Mine.